Welcome to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Heartland Crime Stoppers is a community-based program designed to help law enforcement solve crimes by providing a way for the public to phone in tips anonymously and receive cash rewards of up to $3,000 for information that leads to an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs. Heartland Crime Stoppers is funded through the State of Florida Office of the Attorney General Crime Stoppers Trust Fund and through donations from the community. Citizens and local businesses make Crime Stoppers work. On today's show, we will talk with Brian Haas, State Attorney for the 10th Judicial Circuit. The office represents the people of the state of Florida in all criminal prosecutions in Polk, Highlands, and Hardee counties. In addition, the office advises the grand juries of those three counties and provides representation for the Florida Department of Revenue in child support enforcement. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Now, we had you on the show about 2 years ago, just before you officially took office, and it's been a hectic 2 years.
It's been a busy 2 years. It's been a good 2 years. Good things going on at the office. Obviously, we're very busy. Very proud of the work that our prosecutors and investigators and staff are all doing. We have good relationships with law enforcement partners, and we're doing the best we can with all the challenges that the job brings.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, it was kind of like when my daughter was playing soccer. Of course, I was never a soccer player, but it looks easy. You tell them, just kick the ball is all you got to do until you get out there and realize that it's so much more involving than just kicking the ball. You have so much legalism and rulings and rights, and it's really a difficult position.
It is. You never know what each day is going to bring, and the good thing is you put together the best team that's possible and know that we're going to do the best job we can.
Now, you have started a couple of new programs. One that we talked about briefly before is your Citizens Academy. Tell me how that came about and what you're looking forward to.
Sure. Well, we are very excited about the things that the office is doing. And if you look at our community outreach, we're trying to connect with the public, make sure they understand how we do our job and the good things that we're doing at the courthouse. We do that through social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. But we also want to have an in-depth experience for our members of the community that really want to have a good understanding of what we do at the office. So a lot of the police departments do the Citizens Academies where they do a similar type program. So we're starting this spring, a program where folks can come in and talk to our prosecutors. They'll be presented with some case scenarios, a real good understanding of how the office works and the issues that we have to deal with. And we're even going to have a mock trial program where the citizens can participate in a pretend courtroom hearing so they can kind of see some of the challenges that our folks are dealing with every day. So we're excited about that. The best thing to do if anyone's interested is to go to our website, which is sao10.com, and we have a section on that website to complete an application, and the deadline is coming up. It's February 15th, so there's only a little bit of time left to get that application out.
Now, how long will this class take? Is it like a 6-week or a 10-week?
It's about 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to meet once a week on a Thursday evening, so it's a couple hours each night or each week. It's a time commitment, but I think they'll be very pleased with the investment they make.
Yeah, I think that's such a good investment in the community because most folks only see the inside of the courtroom from jury duty.
Right.
You know,
right.
And again, they don't, even if they're picked on a jury, there's so much that goes on that they don't see when the jury has to leave the room and they have, you know, conferences with the two attorneys and the judge. It's just really, it's just so much more than just kicking the ball.
Right. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and from the second that case comes to our office, sometimes even before, we're talking with law enforcement before they send the case to us, all the way through the intake stage and trial prep, and then deciding if there should be a plea offer, and then eventually the trial if it gets that far. So there's a lot of work that goes on that the public probably never will see.
Yeah, and like you say, there's so many court rulings that come down that you have to stay on top of. And there again, you know, people think, well, we know that he did it, why don't they just arrest him? And there's so many steps, you know, you have to have, you know, the reasonable proof, and you have to have, you know, the search warrant backup and evidence, and it's just, it's a lengthy process.
Well, it is lengthy, and I know some folks are frustrated with sometimes how long it takes, and certainly for our victims, We hate the fact that they have to wait as long as they do for justice, but the reality is it's a good system, and the delay and all the court rulings and all it's all geared towards making sure that there's fair trials, which is what we want. We have a high burden, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's very high, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having that burden, and it should be up to us to prove it, and we do our best to do that.
Yeah, it's you only get one shot, and if you don't have that stuff set up, if you lose that case,
Right.
there's no way that you can go back and resurrect it.
Nope, you get one chance.
Now, I know you've also been doing a lot of speaking about scams,
Right.
that involving the court and municipalities, and there's just so many of them out there. Just if you can kind of touch on a couple
Sure.
of those.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the cases that we have that are very frustrating to us is when we find out that our citizens have been ripped off by scammers from, most of the time, far away from here. They're not local people that are making these calls or sending these emails. They're from all over the country and all over the world. So by the time that scam happens and the money has been sent out, it's often impossible to make a recovery for our citizens and to hold the guilty party responsible if it's from far away. So we're trying to get out ahead of these things, and I spend some time going around talking to our residents about some of the scams that we're seeing and just basic everyday things that they can do to try to avoid becoming a victim of these scams. But we're always on the lookout for the new scams, and one of the recent things that we're seeing is a notification. It's a fake notification that our citizen has missed jury duty, and it's a scary notice to you think that you're in trouble, and they're meant to cause panic and make the person want to pay money quickly to take care of the situation. So we advise anyone that gets anything like that to contact the clerk's office directly on a number that is valid for the clerk's office, not on the notice that you get, because that's part of the scam is you call the number. So call the courthouse and help. The folks there will help you without any problem. We also have people who are trying to take advantage of tragedies. And I think one of the most shameful things I've heard of recently are some folks that are trying to fraudulently collect money on behalf of the victims in the bank shooting in Sebring. And I don't think it gets much lower than that, but
I don't think so.
People are doing that. So our community is such a generous and giving community, and we want to help each other. So the scammers are preying on that, and unfortunately, they're having some success. So my recommendation is, if you want to help the families of victims who have been involved in serious crimes or any charity, verify it on your own without listening to these phone calls that come in. There's plenty of ways to get in contact with legitimate charities, but don't just answer that phone and start giving credit card information. That's not a good way to handle it.
Yeah, I know they use stuff for a power company that you're going to have
Right.
your power turned off, and it's just amazing the different angles that they will use. It's mind-boggling that they would just use it for good as opposed to they could.
They're very creative and very persuasive as well, and they'll get a senior citizen on the line and create panic in their mind. And when you're told your power is going to be cut off, or you're going to jail, or there's serious problems, it causes an emergency in that person's mind, and they want to get it taken care of as quickly as possible. So that's part of the scam, is catching them off guard and making them think that the issue is urgent.
And it's so frustrating because a lot of times they will contact you through what appears to be a local number.
Right.
They are now be able to spoof, if you
Yes.
will, these numbers,
Yes.
and it looks like it's from your own area code with your same, 682 or 553 number, and it looks like a local call when they're actually, across the ocean.
It is very misleading, and I get those calls all the time on my phone. And unfortunately, what I've had to do is just let the calls go to voicemail, and because I don't recognize the number, and you just pick up that phone, and there's some dead air, and then they start talking, and you know that it's either a solicitor or some type of scam, and it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I know the one lady keeps calling me, telling me that my warranty is almost over on my 2000 Ford
I get
truck,
those
so-
same calls. Yeah.
And usually
Very
indicating,
frustrating.
say, don't hang up, though that's an indication to, well, you might want to go ahead and hang up.
Right. There's certainly legitimate fundraisers out there and folks that are trying to raise money for a good cause, but the scammers have really ruined that telephone soliciting for that. It's a shame.
Now, you had kind of referred earlier about the tragedy in Sebring. And there again, that's one of those cases where it seems to be, cut and dried. That people say, well, let's go on with the trial, everything, we got what you need, I read it on the paper. And there again, even though something that appears to be as laid out as that does, that's a lot of work still.
It is a lot of work, and certainly it's ongoing in our investigation, but the main concerns will be, one, to be there for the families of the victims who are just going through a terrible, terrible time, but also make sure that you're assembling the best possible prosecutable case. And there's a lot of things that goes into that, and you can't cut any corners. It's just about as serious as it gets.
Yeah, and I'm sure as you found, as we all have found, when you start cutting corners, that's when you start having problems. And like I say, you get basically one shot at this, and so you have to make sure that all the files are in order,
Right.
And the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
Well, we have our best folks working on it, and I'm responsible for covering Polk, Highlands, and Hardy counties, and we'll be prepared, no doubt.
Brian, I'm going to ask you to stick around for a bit, and we'll be right back. Crime Stoppers provides a way for local law enforcement to receive information on crimes while keeping the people providing that information anonymous. These efforts increase tips, which in turn solve more crimes and identify criminals in our community. Here's a look at some of our most recent cases.
On January 8th, around 6:30 a.m., 17-year-old Elani Miller was struck from behind by an SUV while she was walking east on Swindell Road near Pineville Lane in the Kathleen area of Lakeland. The driver of the SUV did not stop to render aid, leaving Elani lying in the ditch with two badly broken legs. We know, based on witnesses and evidence left behind at the scene, that the suspect vehicle is either a 1999 to 2006 model, dark-colored GMC Yukon, or Chevy Suburban or Tahoe. On December 26, 2018, a victim was purchasing items and laid her phone on the counter at the Wawa store located at 43582 US 27 in Davenport. The suspect removed the phone from the counter and placed it into his pocket. The suspect then exited the store and drove away. The suspect is described as a black male, approximately 5'5", 160 to 180 pounds, driving a silver 2002-2007 Kia Sorento. The vehicle is two-tone, silver on top and gray and black on the bottom. On December 26, 2018, at approximately 4 a.m., two white male suspects entered a fenced-in area next to Horizon Construction, located at 2312 Old Cumbie Road in Lakeland. The suspects removed a 16-foot Horton utility trailer from the property. They were last seen driving a newer model Toyota Tundra with a sticker on the rear driver's side window. At around 2:20 p.m. on December 6, 2018, the suspect seen here went into the Quick Stop Food Mart located at 2100 Old Tampa Highway in Lakeland and purchased a cigar. The suspect walked around the store for a little while, then returned to the counter for an unknown reason through a concrete block at the clerk, striking the clerk in the face and on the arm. The suspect then fled. Polk County Sheriff's deputies are seeking your help in finding a stolen Kubota mini excavator and Kubota RTV. The equipment was taken sometime between December 12th and December 14th from the 12,000 block of U.S. Highway 98 North in Lakeland. 39-year-old Chesley Beck broke his girlfriend's leg during an argument on December 16th at around 10 p.m. at a home they share in Haines City. As the victim was attempting to leave, Beck grabbed her by the left ankle and forcefully and intentionally twisted it, fracturing her left fibula. The victim was able to get away and get help from a neighbor who called 911. If you have any information on any of the cases you've just seen or any information on an unsolved crime, please contact Heartland Crime Stoppers and leave an anonymous tip. The toll-free tip line is 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 8477. You can also leave an anonymous web tip by going to www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com and click on the Give a Tip tab, or by going to www.p3tips.com. Don't forget, you can download our free P3 Tips app on your smart device. Whichever way you choose to leave a tip, you will remain 100% anonymous. If your tip results in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. The 10th Judicial Circuit represents the people of the state of Florida in all criminal prosecutions in Polk, Highlands, and Hardee counties. Joining us in the studio is State Attorney Brian Haas. Brian, thank you for sticking around.
Good to be here.
Now, besides just what people consider, putting people in jail as your job, you actually do much more than that, because that is not always the answer. You have several existing diversion programs,
right,
and then a new one that you have rolled out. So tell us about those programs,
Sure.
if you will.
Well, as you know, we have thousands of cases that come to us every year. Some very, very serious ones, and some ones that are not all that serious, but they need attention. So my goal as the state attorney is to have our prosecutors spending the majority of their time on the real serious cases, the ones where our citizens have been victimized and are hurt badly, or there's drug trafficking and serious cases like that. But we also have cases where maybe they're first-time offenders, maybe they're young folks that haven't been in trouble before, but they've starting to head down the wrong path. And the goal there is to not lock these folks up forever, but to have them go through our program so they learn that they've messed up, but we want them to get on the right track and start becoming productive members of society. So we have various diversion programs that are available at our office that are geared toward the particular type of crime that's being charged. Recently, we've just rolled out a pre-arrest diversion program, and that again is for first-time offenders, folks that have not been through diversion programs before, that have had interaction with law enforcement for a minor, misdemeanor, nonviolent type crime. And the goal there is to fast-track them from their interaction with law enforcement right down to our diversion program, to where they go through a series of classes. They learn about the crime and the dangers of continue on that road, and they do some community service. And at the end, there's no arrest, there's no record that they have to worry about sticking with them. If they successfully complete our program, then they can start on their road with a fresh start without any record to worry about.
Now, you also have some ones you've had for a while, like your teen court, and I think you have drug court, and I'm not sure all the other ones, but tell us about some of those.
Well, the drug court diversion program is through a partnership and run by the 10th Judicial Circuit Court Administration. They do a great job. They have very dedicated people that the goal there is to help people who are addicted to drugs or they are repeatedly using them get the help they need, instead of maybe sending them off to prison. Get them the treatment that they need so they can hopefully not violate the law again. So those folks, they've been through the system before, and they need that additional help. So that program is a very good program. We're very fortunate to have that. And our youth programs are, I'm very excited about them. They provide great opportunity for us to help our kids that are getting into trouble. It is so hard to be a kid these days with all the challenges that they have, and we don't want a bad decision to snowball into a lifetime of having a criminal record and you know, just crime after crime. So we want early intervention with the kids that are getting into some trouble, get them on the right track, not necessarily get them that record, but get them into a program that helps them. And we are very fortunate to have a great partnership with law enforcement, the sheriff's office, and our local police agencies, and our court system that work together to get these kids the help that they need.
I know in the drug court, as you were talking about earlier, again, one of the things that they do regularly in there is to drug test the people that come before them to make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to be doing.
Right. There's got to be accountability. And you know, the incentive to getting through these programs is to complete it and not have that conviction. And so they know that they're going to have to do their community service. They're going to have clean drug screenings. They're going to have to complete the program as required. And if they do all that, in my mind, they've earned it. And I'm excited for them to have a new start and go out and do something good.
Now, and the thing about it is, it's not just a certain type of people that this occurs to. I mean, no one is immune from this, you know, from the upper class down to the lower class and all in between. You know, it's people sometimes get caught up in rumors and not really understanding and just lacking the knowledge that, you know, most of us over many, many years has taken to accumulate, and they just make rash decisions and they act, you know, they don't, you know, react, you know, they don't think things through.
People don't think sometimes. People don't think a lot of times. And mistakes happen. And look, if it's a serious crime and there's been people that have been injured, or, you know, we're going to have to take a different approach. But if it's a nonviolent, minor, first-time offense, we really want to try to pour our resources into getting that person so they don't ever come back to the courthouse again as a defendant. Get them on the right track.
Now, tell us a little bit about the grand jury. You hear so much about the grand jury, and what's its function, and why do we even have it?
The grand jury is a really important part of our system. For one, they are responsible for charging all first-degree murder defendants. The law is such that my office, my prosecutors, can charge all other crimes. Once we get the case from law enforcement, if law enforcement says it's an aggravated battery, we can look at the evidence and make the decision to file what's called an information and charge that defendant with that crime. We can do that for all of the crimes except first-degree murder. If we want to charge somebody with first-degree murder, we have to take it to the grand jury, and the panel has to decide that there's enough evidence to go forward on that charge. So because the first-degree murder charge is so important and so serious and ultimately could lead to the death penalty, the law is that the grand jury must be the one that issues that charge. Grand juries can also investigate. They can also you know, decide cases that may not be first-degree murder cases if we decide that that's appropriate for them to hear, or if there's a governmental agency or something that involves public money or the public interest. Grand jury, with our working with them, can investigate that agency as well.
Now, do you have to convene a grand jury with new grand jurors every time or every case?
Yes.
Or
the law is that we always have to have a grand jury in session, and so my 3 counties, Polk, Highlands, and Hardee, at any given time we always have an active grand jury for each of those counties. So right now we have 3 grand juries that are they've been convened, and when we need them, we'll call them in and present whatever case that needs to be presented to them.
now, how long does the people sit on that grand jury? Is it
About 6 months.
about 6 months?
There's a fall term and a spring term, and so twice a year we have to select that new grand jury.
And certainly the reasoning behind the grand jury is so that those very serious cases, it doesn't just fall on one person to be able to make that decision. It is a representative of the community.
Right. It's how the community, it's a representation of the community and how the community sees it. And I know some folks may be thinking, my goodness, you know, 1 week of a jury would be too much to serve on. But I think at the end, the grand jurors, by the most part, feel that it's a rewarding experience and they've contributed to our society by serving on it. It's a lot of work though. The more murders we have, the more times the grand jury has to meet. So we like when the grand jury's not meeting at all.
Indeed. And like I say, I'm sure that when they start out, as they understand the gravity of being the grand jury, I mean, you've got someone's life basically in your hands. You're making the decision.
Right.
And you want to make sure that, again, the needs of the community, the needs of the victim, you know, the rights of the person that's been being charged or potentially charged are all safe.
That's right. That's right.
Now, Brian, another area that people are really concerned about is the safety of our children.
Mm-hmm.
You see predators online,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, you always hear on the news about somebody trying to pick up a kid somewhere, and it really is one of the things that a lot of parents, that I'm sure all parents, worry about. Tell us some about that, what they can do.
Sure. Well, you know, our kids, like we were talking about before, it's very difficult to be a kid these days. And the parents are doing a lot of times the best they can to try to provide a safe environment. But electronics and social media and telephones and all, they provide a new way for the bad people to get to our kids. So we can have homes that are locked down with security alarms and a guard dog, but if you have that device in your kid's hand, that's a direct link between a potentially very bad person and your child. So as parents or people who are responsible for taking care of kids, you have to be actively involved in making sure you understand what the children are doing with their devices. And they shouldn't have this, the kids should not have this expectation that it's all private and that the parents can't see it, because that's when you start building those barriers, you're helping potentially the bad person have access to your kids. So know what the passwords are. Don't let your kids keep you from seeing them. That's not to say you're going to be snooping all the time, but if the child knows that the parents always have access to these devices, there's that extra layer of protection that can be there. But it's just important to be up on the social media terms. If your kids have the social media accounts, you need to be on there too, seeing what they're saying, and catch them off guard. Don't let people fall into routines. And every once in a while, just grab that tablet, grab that phone, and say, "Let me see what you got there." They're kids. They're in your home. You're probably paying for all of it anyway. So it's your responsibility as a parent to stay in your kid's business. And it's not easy all the time, but you need to try to do that.
Yeah, that's why parenting is such a hard job. And it seems like the biggest impact that a parent has on their kids as far as discipline is yanking that phone.
Yeah, and in today's world, there are so many ways that people can get to our kids, more than just the phone, the social media. But if you think about it, whether the gaming devices, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever it is, those are all linked now through the internet. So we've found where people are getting on there and portraying themselves as a teenager, but really they're an adult, and they're trying to make connections with these kids, gain their trust, and the child has no idea who they're really talking to. So be aware of that. Listen in on what's going on, because you don't want to be in a situation where it's too late, and that's a very scary thing.
Indeed. Well, Brian, thank you for coming to the show today and for your input and for your knowledge and everything, and we certainly appreciate all you do for Polk, Highlands, and Hardy counties.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
With offices in Bartow, Lakeland, Winter Haven, Wauchula, and Sebring, the 10th Judicial Circuit serves the residents of Polk, Highlands, and Hardy counties. For more information, you can check them out on the web at www.sao10.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Crime Stoppers. Keep in mind, Heartland Crime Stoppers is an organization that helps law enforcement solve crimes through anonymous tips and monetary rewards. It encourages a cooperative partnership between law enforcement, the media, and the community to ensure security and enhance our quality of life here in Polk County. For more information, you can check us out on the web at heartlandcrimestoppers.com or follow us on Facebook at Heartland Crime Stoppers Florida. Until next time, keep in mind, it's a crime, and you can help make sure that they don't get away with it.